Hey everyone, Pete de Jong here, and I just thought what I would do for a bit of a change here is introduce you to some of the members of my team. And I thought, what the heck, I'll start with Katelyn, seeing as she's right here in the office with me,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it goes. And from there I might introduce you to Marley and some of the other folks on the team as well, just because when you're a client of mine, you may well end up working with Katelyn. At some point you'll probably be talking to Marley, our assistant, that we share, and some of the other folks as well. But let's start with Katelyn. Katelyn, tell me a little bit about your background.
So, a little bit about myself. I was born here in Calgary. I actually lived in Vancouver for a couple years,
Okay.
but we actually moved back to Calgary because at the time, just like last year, the prices were really high. My parents couldn't afford it, unfortunately. So,
Yeah,
we packed up and moved back to Calgary.
seems to happen more often. You know,
Yeah.
Vancouver gets expensive, people move to Calgary. Calgary gets expensive, they move to Saskatchewan,
Yep.
this kind of thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, we saw a lot of that last year and the year
We
before.
did.
People sort of saying, Vancouver, boy, I tell you, it's getting too much. I got to move somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And in terms of when you moved back here, what were you doing here? You grew up here. You
Yeah,
went to
grew
school
up.
here.
I went to school here. I did college at SAIT, and I actually finished with a finance diploma. So
Okay.
I worked at Royal Bank for 7 years before I actually started
Huh.
real estate full time.
What did you do at the Royal Bank?
Yeah, I was a client advisor. So I worked at the front, but I also was a banking advisor who would take in clients and do
Okay.
appointments and such in the
And
office
give them
too.
advice and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
yeah.
you're interested in real estate. Did that start when you were at the bank?
No, it actually started way before that. My parents actually kind of got me into it. We would do business together. I would help them with some of the decision makings. They're into investment properties is what
Yeah.
they do essentially.
They've got a bit of a portfolio of
They
homes,
do.
right? So,
yeah. So now I'm actually helping them manage their properties, and I actually just acquired one of my own a couple years ago too. So
Yeah.
it's
Just
full
outs-
circle.
Just outside of downtown,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Just
Great little
outside
condo.
Of,
Yeah.
Albert Park.
Albert Park, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in the bank for about 6 years, got into real
Yeah.
estate by helping your parents buy and sell some properties and build their portfolio. Then you started
Yeah.
working how did you end up working with me and with Remax? Because if I
Ugh.
remember correctly, it was a nightmare.
It was
right?
a doozy.
Oh,
It
terrible.
was, my God, here we are
Yeah.
still 8 months later, and I'm still regretting it. Anyway, so Pete was actually the selling realtor on the other side. So he was my first deal that I worked with, and then you contacted me a couple months later, and then
Yeah.
everything just happened so quickly. But it's
Yeah.
been really great so far.
That's the way I remember it too. Is
Yeah.
I remember doing a deal with you, and I thought you were doing great. You know, for being your first deal and stuff, you were working hard for your client. You were confident. You were, you weren't shy to ask for more and more and more to the point where you were driving my client nine nuts. But good for you, and that's your job. At that time, I thought. Because it did come apparent during that time that it was your first deal. I remember helping you
Yeah.
with something. It
Oh,
was like
yeah.
you don't need to get witnesses on an electronic signature or something
so
like that.
embarrassing.
Anyways, but I thought this girl seems like really good, like very
Mm-hmm.
professional, even for it being her first deal, and not afraid to ask questions and all that stuff, and humble and kind and all that. And I thought, you know what, she's going to do really, really well one day. So I actually wrote your name down and thought, if I ever build my team, because at that point it was becoming evident that at some point I'm going to need help. It was getting way
Yeah.
too busy for just me, and just never being able to get a break or a day off or anything like that either. And you know what? It's also, I mean, you might not know this. But I tell you, you do this business for a couple years on your own, and this is weird, but it gets to be a lonely business. Like you sometimes,
Really?
well, you do a deal and you want to high five someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you're having a really crappy experience with a client, you want to go, oh man, I don't have to deal with this person.
Yeah.
You know, so there are times where just being part of a team
Yeah.
is so beneficial for everybody, including our clients. And I think the
Yeah.
way we do it actually works well too, right? Because we
Yeah.
share our systems, we share an assistant.
Exactly.
You know, if I ever have to take off for a day or two, you know, you could. It's such good synergy because you know how I work, you know where my files are, you know Marley knows the client, you know the client.
Exactly.
It works beautifully. So I think in that way it's been great. Yeah,
And we still get to have a life.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not just all business. Right?
yeah. Speaking of it not all being all business,
Yeah.
let me ask you something completely different.
Okay.
What's your most embarrassing moment?
Oh my gosh. Okay. My most embarrassing moment, I slipped and fell while I was at a bar. I was walking down the stairs, and I remember telling myself that I was actually gonna fall. I told myself, oh my goodness, Katelyn, you're gonna fall. And then within 2 seconds, I fell, but I fell very graciously.
Sure you did.
I did.
Yeah, and you were stone cold sober too,
Yeah,
right? Yes.
I was very sober.
Sure you were.
I was. I was driving that night.
Yeah, you were sober. What do you do when you're not selling real estate? Do you
when
have
I'm
any
not
hobbies
doing-
or?
I mean, honestly, I like to spend time with my friends and family.
Okay.
I don't do too much. Like, with my girls, we'll go and try out new restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take naps. Sometimes you just need a break.
Well, when you're in this business, especially this year, we've
Oh
needed
my
to find time to
goodness.
sleep. So even with Katelyn helping me this year,
Yeah.
there's been times where it's like, you're working 16-hour days. And we're grateful, like very, very
Oh,
thankful
for sure.
to all of our clients that we could be that busy. Because there's years where we aren't. So it's been amazing. But yeah, getting some sleep has been a challenge this year. So it's been good. Well, that's awesome. If you have any questions about Kate, feel free to text me. If you want to know more about embarrassing stories about Kate, I've got a couple too in my back pocket here that she won't talk about. But they're good.
Don't.